Research shows people who survive a suicide attempt do not go on to die by suicide, reinforcing the value of support.
WIFR's Alyssa Kelly speaks with the Illinois chapter of American Foundation for Suicide Prevention about how one simple act can save a life.
Definitely.
Angela Cummings, Executive Director of the Illinois chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, emphasizes that a simple "how are you" can be life-changing.
We know that community is a protective factor for suicide.
Suicide is a leading cause of death in the United States, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. AFSP Illinois says the statistic underscores the importance of community-based prevention efforts.
We all have a part to play, and that you don't have to be a mental health professional to really learn some of these key warning signs and ways to help someone and really make a difference.
For the month of May, AFSP Illinois will host a series of free suicide prevention education and support programs, both in person and online.
Really, by coming together and talking about this issue together, destigmatizing it, being there for one another, kind of having that open heart to talking about somebody's mental health state, we really can go so far in saving lives.
The online program, available to make things easier for people who might be nervous about attending in person.
You can drop into these lunch and learns, keep your camera off, keep your microphone off, just absorb and, learn something that you can take into your own community and family.
The chapter will share strategies to focus on physical health, strengthening social connections, asking for help and accepting support, recognizing personal needs and boundaries, and navigating challenges life throws at us.
Everybody has a role to play, and just like getting kind of trained in CPR, getting trained in Talk Saves Lives and these just very basic suicide prevention tools is just critical for reducing the rate overall.
In the State Line, Alyssa Kelly, WIFR News.
AFSP Illinois hosts events year-round. In June, the chapter will host a construction hike for hope. Construction and the heavy labor industry has the second highest rate of suicide of any occupation.